You're drunk.
Hey, welcome to the Micheaux Mission. 2 men, 1 podcast. Every black film ever made. My name is Len, a.k.a. the Bat Tribble. And as always, I'm joined by my partner.
Hey, this is Vincent Williams.
Tonight, missionaries, we have a very special treat for you because we are not going to be reviewing one film. We are going to be reviewing 2 films this evening. We are going to be reviewing from 1996, Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood.
That's right. Get the whole title.
I have to, yep.
The whole title.
We do whole title here on the Micheaux Mission.
Sure.
And then we're going to jump to 2002 and review Undercover Brother. And we're not just reviewing both of these films. We're actually going to play a little with our format and talk about them in totality, pulling them apart and seeing what these movies have to say about the black experience, as well as how they use black humor. And who better to be our very special guest in this summer of comics here on the Micheaux Mission to talk about humor than none other than one of Vincent's very favorite humorists and essayists
Absolutely.
out there right
Big
now.
fan.
That's right.
It's a very smart brother right here.
That's right. It's another fangirl experience for Vincent tonight as we welcome onto the show Damon Young. How you doing, Damon?
I'm great. I'm doing great right now. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. Yeah.
We really appreciate you. Damon is
Absolutely.
here to not only talk about his work, his career, but he's also here to talk about his new book, That's How They Get You.
Yeah.
An unruly anthology of Black American humor. A very interesting book. I actually started reading it a few days ago and got stuck on a story. Oh, what was the story? I think it's like they cry at the Waffle House. I believe it.
No one cries at Waffle House.
No one cries at the Waffle House by Ashan Crawley. Ashan Crawley. A really interesting story about one man's relationship with romantic comedies, as well as trying to find romance in his life and in Philly where we are. So it was actually like going through a road map through Philly, and I was like, oh man, you couldn't find love at the at 40th and Market. Like, what's going on, man? I felt bad. I felt sorry for the brother.
Sure.
But it's a great book, and we are very excited to have you here on the Micheaux Mission, Damon.
Yeah. Just really quickly, the book is an anthology. 24 contributors, all new stuff except for one essay, but new stuff from people like Kersey Lehman, Hanifa Dorikheep, Deisha Filio, Roy Wood Jr.'s in it, Wyatt Sinak's in it, Angela Nissel. I mean, we have a really just amazing roster. 24 generous geniuses who trusted me to be vulnerable, trusted me, with their work, with their humor. I don't think, we necessarily think of humor as like a vulnerable act. Like we don't associate humor and vulnerability on the same plane, but it takes a lot to try to be funny. And someone asks you, hey, I'm going to put this book out of a bunch of niggas being funny, right? And I want you to contribute, right? And so, Sean, like someone like Sean, he didn't write like a laugh out loud piece. He wrote a piece that was more thoughtful, meditation on dating and his love life as a queer Black man, right? And so, I put that call out. People gave me what they gave me, and I'm really appreciative of that, and also just a response. That it's been out for about a month and a half now, and response has been all love, been on tour, talking to people about it. Also had an opportunity to do events with some of the people in the book, so that's been great too. So yeah, it's just been a really, really fun summer. Busy, tiring, hot, chaotic, messy. You know what I mean? Sticky. I went to Essence Fest last week. You know, I'm still recovering,
Sure,
but
sure.
also fun.
Well, certainly, as Lynn mentioned, I've been a fan of your writing since the very Smart Brothers and your SC writing, and certainly you were an editor on this. Anything coming down the pike from your pen?
Yeah. So in this book, I also do have a couple original pieces, and I'm like sprinkled out in other places in there. But my next thing is a is my first fiction.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, and it's a satirical take on the performance of race, on racism, on sex, on anti-racism, on the publishing industry.
Mm.
It's called Snowdrop. Um, that's next up. I'm very excited and also terrified about this. Because
About stepping into the fiction space.
yeah, I've never written fiction, so I'm having a lot of fun. It's definitely the most transgressive and the most vulgar, and I think the funniest thing that I've
Mm.
written before.
Mm.
But also because it's so vulgar, right? It's so transgressive that I'm like, I'm waiting. The feedback I've gotten so far has been great, but it's also like, oh shit, I'm actually going to say this and put this in a book
Right.
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with my work with VSB, with all my books, I don't shy away from
Not at
Not
all.
at all.
with language and with subject matter and the way and the construction and all that stuff. But this is taking all that, like all that before was like the G League, and it not in terms of like value, but just in terms of how far I'm going with
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
language and with you know language and with I guess vulgarity, right?
Ooh.
And this new thing is like, oh shit, now we're in the major leagues.
Did I hear you say that this is has a commentary on the performance of race?
Yes. Hmm.
What do you mean by the performance of race?
Well, I think and I think we'll get into this today when we talk about these movies. It's like I think we're all aware, right, of not just race, but how people are raced. And what
Mm-hmm.
I mean is like, there are certain expectations, right? And not even and yeah, we all are aware of stereotypes. We all are aware of how certain things can be damaging, can be hurtful,
Yeah.
can be harmful. Particularly when they're used to subjugate, they're used to harm, they're used to commit violence. But we also, I think, are very cognizant of, okay, this is what it means to be a black man,
Mm-hmm.
right? These are the behaviors that are
Mm-hmm.
associated with this, right? Good or bad, right? And these things are socialized, and and very often, even we might be more conscientious where we're trying to subvert or we're trying to like, I guess, push back against
Yeah.
the expectation. That shit is atmospheric,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes you just can't help but do a thing that, again, that's like a performance of race. I think we understand performance of gender. I
Mm-hmm.
think,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
talk about that more frequently, particularly men, and certain activities or certain ways of existing.
Mm-hmm.
Men feel like, oh, I'm a man, I'm supposed to do this, I'm a man, I'm supposed to do that, I'm
Yeah.
supposed to feel this way, I'm supposed to feel that way, whatever. And race follows the same script, right? And so this book is a commentary on the performance of race and how race compels people, not just black people, but people of other races to perform, and how it affects how we're treated, how it affects how we think about ourselves, how it affects what we consider to be, aspirational, what we consider to be aspirational personality traits and activities that we, even as we maybe recognize in parts of our in our guts and in our brains that a shit is harmful.
Mm-hmm.
There's still certain things that I was like, you know what? I know I've done all the reading. I know how fucked up this is, but I kind of still
It's in
I
Right.
you
kind
I'm
now.
of
about to
feel
say
like,
it's comfortable.
ah, you
Yeah.
know. And so this new book, talks about that quite a bit. right? And also talk about there's a lot of sex in a new book. One of my windmills has been that we like, or one of my windmills has been that heterosexual Black men don't write about sex.
Mm.
Just we just don't write about sex, and unless it's like in talking about trauma or in the service of some sort of comic relief. And
Mm.
so I wanted to also write about that. And of course, it could be a bit of a Trojan horse where, the sex is a way to introduce these concepts of performance and articulate, these different performances and how, it impacts how we feel about ourselves and how other people feel about us.
Okay, heady stuff. Heady stuff.
Yeah,
Looking
sure.
forward to that.
That's funny. Yeah, heady stuff.
All right. Well, we'll get into that. Thank you.
Yes.
And you're right. That definitely plays a part in the films that we were going to be reviewing tonight, today. So I'll be interested in your take. But first, we want to hear from you, missionaries, as we are streaming live to YouTube, as well as to all points north, south, east, and west. We see each and every one of you out there in the chat. They have also said hello to you, Damon. They're saying, oh, it's a very Smart Brothers episode of the Micheaux Mission. So you've got some fans in the room, Damon.
Okay, what's good? Hey, everybody, your checks are in the mail. I told you all to log on and pretend like you were fans organically coming to see this. So, I wasn't supposed to say that part out loud. My bad.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, always the humorist, isn't that Damon? But we're going to hear from you, listeners, with your emails, or as we like to call them,
missives from the missionaries.
So what else is going on, Lynn?
we have emails, Vincent.
Ooh, missives from the missionaries. Missives from the missionaries.
All right, we have an email here, Vincent, Damon, from Michael Lockett.
Hey, what's up, Michael?
Greetings, my brothers and fellow missionaries, and to you, Mr. Young. I'm so happy to see all of you in so many places. I'm loving the new vantage points the conversations are taking with your summer of comics. Last week's movie, Shaft's Big Score, which we reviewed with the comic author David F. Walker, was a nice little joint to return to for me. It had been about 20 years since I had seen this. I vacillate on this film. As much as I like the character and the overarching premise, there are still stylistic holes in the film that I may be judging unfairly just because of my fondness for the original Shaft. I know it's hard to do a lot of times, but when you two do give some context to what was happening during the making of the film, it gives me solid ground to levy either harsh criticism or perfumed praise. The Wayback Machine, just to fill you in, Damon, Michael is someone who is watching the films along with the show. So he is watching our current episodes, and then he's also watching our older episodes. That's what he caught referencing the Wayback Machine. The Wayback Machine took me back to you two as you critiqued the Emperor Jones.
Ah, yeah, Emperor Jones.
I was stunned at how technically advanced this film was, how nuanced the acting, and how there were setups dropped all over the place that paid off later, but most importantly, how brilliant and proud Paul Robeson was. This movie, in my mind, changed the landscape of filmmaking more than the heavily lauded Wizard of Oz. This took so many chances, and as previously mentioned, the context around this leap from stage to screen is fascinating and inspiring. After watching The Emperor Jones, I squarely put it as the most transformative black film of the 30s. If, Vincent, Damon, if you had to pick one film from each decade that was transformative, which would you pick? Here is Michael Lockett's list, and I guess it's easier to see whether or not we agree with his list. Here.
Yes, let's do that.
So from the 30s, he puts up Paul Robeson's The Emperor Jones. Okay. In the 40s, he references The Blood of Jesus, which we also reviewed.
Yeah.
Here. I don't necessarily have a problem with The Blood of Jesus.
Sure.
50s, the transformative black film was Porgy and Bess.
So Porgy and Bess more than Carmen Jones?
I think I would say Porgy and Bess.
I love you, Porgy. I love you, Porgy.
Yeah.
That song is in my head.
I would say Porgy and Bess over Carmen Jones.
Okay.
I mean, Carmen Jones is certainly, it's out there. It has its fans. It's not a knock on the film, but as a transformative black film for the 50s.
I just feel like Dorothy Dandridge's performance in Carmen Jones is actually effervescent. Like when you talk about transformative.
Okay.
But okay, all right, but all right.
60s.
60s. Oh, see,
Transformative black film in the 60s.
Yeah, but see, now it's about to get.
It's about to get.
It's about to get tight.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
Because from the 60s, he references The Learning Tree.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't choose a learning tree from the 60s.
You're saying you wouldn't?
Oh, no. Look, you know me.
That's 1969. First of all,
I'm going right to the heat of the night. In the heat of the night,
I would go to the Heat of the Night or either Nothing But a Man.
Nothing But a Man. Good. That's a solid choice. How you feel about the 60s, Damon?
I mean, we're talking about, transformative movies, right? The Learning Tree, that's Gordon Parks, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah, I think In the Heat of the Night. Although when does Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? When is that released?
That's the
What year?
60s.
That's the 60s too.
Also, I mean, you got two Poitier performances. One where he slaps a white man on on the big screen.
Yes, he does.
Right. And the other, so it's funny. I was listening. I think it was Wesley Morris who was doing a podcast or whatever about this, or speaking about Guess Who's Coming to Dinner on a podcast and why he's never liked that movie. And his rationale was like, Sidney Poitier played a character who's essentially dickless, right? Someone who, in order to have a man who, in order to have this character who is brought home to this white family, a progressive white family or whatever.
For the time, yeah.
One, he's like twice her age.
Yes.
There's that. And then there's also the fact that he is like it's almost like he's a statue of a man, not an actual flesh and blood human who lusts and loves and all that stuff, right? And it just removes the passion from the relationship.
Yep.
And so I guess for that end, I guess I would also choose In the Heat of the Night, just to see Sidney Poitier. Like I would have loved to have been in a theater.
Yeah, at that moment.
In a theater, just to see the reaction in the theater when that happened. Like all black theater. I mean?
I would have loved to have been in an all black theater and then hiding out in an all white theater.
Right. And to your point, and we talked about this when we talked about, like in my mind, what is so radical about In the Heat of the Night is that his character, Virgil Tibbs, is not a saint.
Not at all.
Like he's actually this arrogant prick. But he has this space to be that way in this film because he knows he is actually smarter than everybody else in the film.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of nice to see Sidney Poitier not be this saint, kind of here to deliver white people from the sin of racism.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So
the saintly sexless character is black character. It's a trope.
Mm-hmm.
You know, male and female. It's a trope. It's like you have these people who, oh, there's a magical Negro, but I think this even exists where it's not quite magical, right? But it's this person who has no interiority.
Right.
Exactly.
Even but not even in relationship to whiteness, but you can't even see them actually existing as a flesh and blood person around black people either. It's
Mhm.
like, is this person actually a person, or is it just like a representation, like a sentient representation of quote unquote black excellence?
Right.
Uh, and I've just never, even as a kid, I was just never interested in that sort of depiction in movies, on screen, and TV, and whatever. Because it's just like, yo, this ain't a person. This is like, I don't know who the fuck is this. Is what is this? Jesus? This ain't like a flesh and blood person.
Right. Right.
What's happening here?
I know. All right, let's go to the 70s.
Okay. 70s.
Michael, your list. For the 70s, the most transformative black film, Michael Lockett suggests Sounder.
Yeah, Michael, I don't agree with that.
Not at all.
I don't agree with Sounder.
not even close.
No.
Sounder, please. Please. Now, I mean,
And I like Sounder. But if I gotta pick something transformative, yeah, I'm not picking Sounder.
it ain't Sounder.
Not from the 70s.
No. Now I'm sitting here thinking, all right, what film do I want to select from? Because there are more than a few to choose from.
If I gotta pick one, I might stick with Claudine.
Claudine's a good one.
Just the way it humanizes blackness.
Yeah.
Claudine, final answer.
Claudine. I don't mind landing on Claudine. There was a part of me that was,
Like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Black?
that was my
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Black?
that was my 12th choice.
Right. He transforms into a black man.
Yes.
Right there in the title, actually.
Yes. It's just underneath the Watermelon Man.
Right under.
But
right. Maybe Blackenstein.
no. Actually, the Watermelon Man is not a bad
I was about to say, I didn't want to say anything.
Watermelon
You
Man
gonna watch all that Watermelon Man
Watermelon
slander.
Man is not
I was about to say,
that's a
easy-
transformative
easy
film.
with that. All right.
That might
All right.
that's a good one.
Right, I'm making jokey jokes. All right, go
The
ahead.
Watermelon Man is
Can I ask y'all a question?
Yes.
What I'm sure you've talked about this before, but how do you define a black movie?
Oh, Damon. How long do you have?
Can you give me your elevator pitch? we're on the 5th floor. We're about to get off at 7. So you gotta let me know.
I think there are various ways. Black representation, black voice, black vision,
Okay.
and whatever those three look like with you. Like for instance, we'll talk about I'll just talk about points of tension. Like something like a Spike Lee movie like 25th Hour or The Inside Man. Or 25th Hour is probably a better example where there are no black main characters, but this is clearly a Spike Lee movie. Is this a black film? As opposed to something like, Karina with Whoopi Goldberg, where she's the only black character. She's not really fleshed out this well, but it's Whoopi Goldberg. So we kind of said, well, that's black too, as opposed to random Denzel Washington movie like The Equalizer that you could have replaced him with a white actor, and it doesn't necessarily change the film, but the visual of Denzel Washington. We talk about that being black. So that's the long way of saying, now that the elevator door has opened and you're about to get off, we don't have a definitive answer.
Okay. Because I'm curious, particularly like so movies, black theme, black centered, black perspective, but white director. So like Hustle and Flow.
Exactly.
Pass on Flow.
where
Color Purple.
where does Hustle and Flow? Because even though, and I was actually, it's funny, I was talking to Cassie Lehman, who's in the book, talking to him about this a couple years ago. About we were talking about why Hustle and Flow and Black Snake Moan
Mm,
don't really have great replay value,
right.
the same way that a lot of other very popular Black movies do. And maybe there's some choices that the director, the white director, I forgot his name, maybe made that might have been a little different than a choice that a Black director would have made. Even if you consider it, particularly Hustle and Flow, to be a Black movie, right?
Right.
Because maybe it's not. Maybe it's a movie about, maybe again, it's a movie where you perform Blackness and you have Black characters
Hmm.
and you're in Memphis, you're in a Black city. But I don't I, I don't know. It's something I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask the experts.
Well, it's something we've been thinking about for years,
And
for just the reason that you said.
Hmm.
most definitely. All right, let's go real quick through this list
So do we have consensus with the 70s?
of Claudine.
How you feel about Claudine, Damon?
Thumbs up.
All right.
Claudine is fine, even though I'm looking in the chat and I see that Sharon Eldridge suggested Cooley High, which I think kind of does the same thing that you're saying Claudine does, kind of like humanizes the characters.
Yeah, but it's a period piece.
But it is a period
Right.
piece,
I feel
so
like
it's
it
not
should
set.
be right
It's
set
not
in the
set
decade.
in the set
Right.
70s. Fair enough.
Which is why I'll be pushing for Breaking to Electric Boogaloo once we get to the 80s.
Well, no, you won't, because this is where Michael Lockett gets it right.
Okay.
Because in the 80s, he suggests do the right thing.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I don't have any argument.
Right, of course.
I see Damon's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Damon may be keeping for carbon copy. I don't know, but
Carbon copy. Probably Denzel.
I think Leonard Part 6.
Leonard Part 6.
Definitive,
let's shut off the
Black,
Zoom now, Dylan.
Leonard Part 6.
definitive Black movie from the 80s. But yeah, I feel like Do the Right Thing is like it's a choice that's so obvious that I'm wondering if it's too obvious.
Fair.
Fair.
Yeah, that look on my face was me thinking like, is there another choice, or even another Spike movie that might be more of a, I don't know, more of an impactful or transformative, and with this question, is it about impactful culturally or impactful thematically?
I think it's culturally, because this question came out. I'll tell you how this question came out, because we recently reviewed Sinners, right?
Okay.
And one of the things that we had noted that Sinners was probably the third film of the 21st century so far, third Black film that has been a cultural touchstone
Right.
for Black film. With the other two, in our estimation, in just the 21st century, being the first Black Panther and Get Out, as for being the commentary that they provide for the Black people, its depiction of Black people, this depiction of the Black experience, as well as how all three films became this communal moment,
Right.
in the Black experience.
And it seems
as
like
well.
they'll remain a reference point. Like Do the Right Thing has.
I mean, I don't disagree. I'm just thinking, because the 80s, you're in a time where you do have just a lot more films, particularly the late 80s. Because I guess Menace and Boys in the Hood, those were like early 90s.
I was
Yeah.
about to say, now we're
Also,
moving to the 90s.
Malcolm X was what, 90? Was Malcolm X 90? I went to the movie to see that. My
That
parents
was the
took me-
90s.
Yeah, Malcolm X is like 91
because-
or so.
Yeah.
91. Okay. So yeah, I do the right thing.
Right,
I'm
that
making
gets
this,
in right
I'm
under
making
the
this
wire in
that's an
89.
That's one of the most impactful movies of all time,
Right.
regardless of race, regardless of whatever. Yeah.
But to Damon's point, as I'm sitting here thinking of it, and you know, it's not a bad exercise to try and think of, is there possibly another film?
Sure.
And another one that's coming to my mind, and see how this lands with you, was maybe 48 Hours and the explosion of Eddie Murphy.
I don't know how much 48 Hours turned into a black transformative moment as much as it did an Eddie Murphy transformative moment.
Okay. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I mean, could you, if we're staying with Eddie, could you say that Beverly Hills Cop invented the crime action comedy, the contemporary action comedy?
I would say no, because I think that 48 Hours was a
Yeah, but Beverly Hills Cop is the slicker version. Like it's really the slick child of 48 Hours.
Okay, but that's the same way that Shaft is the, you know, some people say the slick child of some of the blaxploitation films.
Okay.
So that's the only
All right.
reason I say
I don't
that.
want to get caught in the weeds. All right. We'll get caught in the weeds.
Yeah, we'll be in the weeds all day. In the 90s, Michael Lockett suggests Friday.
I'm not against Friday.
I'm not against it either.
I'm not against Friday. Although, in a lot of ways, Friday is the child of Boys in the Hood.
Yes, it is. But I do think Friday is more transformative. I believe it is because it marries all of those worlds together and makes them, it humanizes them, I believe.
Okay. Like I said,
So this is first one where I do disagree.
okay.
I think it's a Boomerang.
Boomerang.
And I think if not Boomerang, then Love Jones. In terms of capturing, and people have their feelings about Love Jones or whatever, but in terms of capturing a zeitgeist, capturing a feeling, capturing a group of actors, on the come up. We hadn't seen Lorenz Tate. He goes from playing O-Dog, the most sociopathic person in any hood movie
Amen.
ever, to being like this, lovelorn, stalking, right?
Yes.
Artist, sensitive, in a deep in the Chicago summer with a leather coat on. And so yeah, for me, I think that, and I'm not even talking about my personal favorites, but when I think of the 90s most impactful black movies, I would go Boomerang, then I'd go Love Jones.
Well, you're not going to get any argument for me for anyone keeping up for Love Jones. So I am with you all the way on Love Jones.
I like Boomerang. There's always a part of me that wonders if there's a class component to Love Jones. Like I always feel like there's a bouginess to Love Jones that I don't know if it's as cross-culturally, it has the cachet that those of us inside a certain bubble think it has.
That's interesting.
Like I think Boomerang plays everywhere. But I've always like that sort of black bohemian subgenre of the 90s that many of us have great affection for. I do wonder how much of that is we're kind of showing our bubble a little bit.
I think that's a great point. I think, and I don't know if it's necessarily a classed thing, though, because Boomerang is a movie about upper middle class black people.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Who have tremendous apartments. Everyone in that movie looks so good.
Sure.
Everyone. Their clothes, their haircuts, their where they live, their jobs, like all of that. And I think, the reason why I mentioned that is I feel like that might have been the first first movie I could think of where it had that depiction of us, where and that wasn't even like the main point of the movie. It was just like, oh, these
It
are
was just there.
Right. It was just there.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're just living their lives, you know, just living their lives, it was the first time that I realized that you need to that there were niggas who inspected women's toes and feet because for me I'm a kid and I'm not thinking about feet. Fine,
This is
girl
going
gave
to
me
be the
some.
clip, Bob. This is going to be the clip that we're going to play on the reel.
I'm not thinking about her toes. I just wasn't there. And
Right.
then I see ring and it's like, oh, you're supposed to care about this shit. Right. I did not know that until the movie. I still don't really care. But
Little
again,
little Damon running up to his mom. Mom.
What is this about feet? Well, there you go. Boomerang transformative and also feet.
Okay. Boomerang. I like that one. I'm seeing in the chat people caping for Harlem Nights or Hollywood Shuffle and even Soldier Story.
Sure.
All good suggestions.
It's a target-rich
Hollywood
environment.
Shuffle, that's the 80s though, right? That's like 80s.
Yeah, I'm catching
Yeah.
up on some of the suggestions here. In the 2000s, now this is just the 2000s, 2000 to 2010, we have Love and Basketball.
You know, I have very strong feelings about Love and Basketball, so I'm probably not the best judge. Those strong feelings are, I think Omar Epps' character is one of the worst characters in people in the history of Earth.
Not as bad as my man in.
Oh, no. The worst person on Earth is Harper in The Best Man. He's actually a super villain.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, Love and Basketball.
Love and Basketball. The 2000s. Trying to think of the movies of the 2000s, just off the top of my head.
When did He Got Game come out?
Who got game?
He Got Game.
That may be the early.
Yeah, that's the early 2000s.
That may be early 2000s. No, that's the 90s. 98.
Okay.
90s. So
98.
I feel like so much happened in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
The 90s could almost be split into
To 91 to 95.
That's true.
Yeah, because you have almost like 3 decades worth of stuff smashed into that
That's
one
true.
decade.
That's true.
Because the 2000s, by comparison, are kind of light in comparison to like everything that came out in the 90s. Because we could talk about 90s movies for the next 2 hours, for the next 2 days.
Yeah,
Yes.
we could.
And we've got 2 movies we got to talk about tonight. So let's real quick.
Yes.
So I think it's safe to say that Love and Basketball, we're iffy on that one. I think it's safe to say that. Not knocking Love and Basketball, but as the transformative.
The movie starts and he knocks her down and scars up her face.
Okay, we know that.
And then it ends, he takes the little joint off his knee, and then suddenly he's like dunking on her. Okay, I'm just saying, this is in the movie.
All right.
This is the
I
actual
have
movie.
my own basketball movies. I have my own issues with depiction of basketball in movies. So, yeah.
You don't like that Dr. J took Suge Avery out for a date at the basketball court?
I
And that's a hometown movie.
I've never seen the Fish to Save Pittsburgh all the way through. I've never seen that all the way through, right? But basketball of all like the major American sports, football, baseball, whatever, even boxing, is the hardest to depict on film.
It is.
Because basketball requires like a skill. You can't just be fast. Like if you're just like an athletic looking guy who's fast and an actor, okay, you could be a receiver. You know how to catch. You know how to run. We could play. You could be a receiver. We could make you seem like an NFL receiver. But with basketball, like with Love and Basketball, you're watching Omar Epps hoop. It was like, this nigga's supposed to be Iverson? Really? Like an Iverson type player, right? You would not score a bucket on me. Right? And so it's hard. And again, I'm a hooper. I played basketball in college, did all that stuff. So it might just be a me thing, where it's just very hard for me to kind of suspend disbelief. I mean, the worst example of this ever is in American History X when they
Okay.
had like the black the niggas versus the Nazis playing a game for like who would get the rule the hoop courts on Venice Beach, and the Nazis won. Nazis won, and then they win the game by Ed Norton doing a double pump reverse dunk. Right, that was the final. That was the game point. Ed Norton turns into Dominique Wilkins.
Racism.
Yeah, racism. Racism gives you hops, apparently.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Hey, Mac McClung. We do anyone know Mac McClung's people? How he keeps winning these dunk contests? Is he secretly? Are those secretly racism fueled hops that he has? He's from Virginia, so it's not a far fetched thing. Some of his people might have been on the other side. Would remember the Titans. You know what I mean? So it's not a far fetched thing. Like we don't know what Mac McClung. His name is Mac. Come on. Come on. Stop playing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right.
I'm just going to finish this out. For the 2010s, Michael Lockett suggests Get Out.
Okay. Sure.
So putting that above Black Panther, which is 2018.
I mean, one is sort of black aspirational and black escapism, and one kind of gets to the heart
Yeah.
of black fear.
Yeah. So I'm fine with
I
that.
guess it depends on how you're feeling that day, what you're going for.
I think the conversation, in my opinion, the conversation, as much as I love Black Panther, is between Get Out and Moonlight.
Okay. Make your case.
I think Moonlight, with its depiction of one, it's a movie with literally no white people in the entire movie.
True.
Not on screen, not an extra, literally zero white people
Yep.
in the entire movie. So you have that, right? I don't think I've ever seen that, aside from like on like Booty Talk or something like that. And then you also had just this beautiful, nuanced depiction of this queer black man and his coming of age and going through stages, and you see also at the end when Trevante Rhodes is black and he's all built up and he's all muscular, and if you meet a guy like that, you encounter a guy like that on the street, and sometimes if you don't know him, you might wonder, okay, what happened? Like, how did you get from wherever you were at 4 or 5 years old to here? And I feel like that Moonlight, more than any other movie really that I could think of, black movie, white movie, whatever, shows that journey. It shows that, like, okay, this is how it happens, and it shows it in those 3 vignettes. And again, I think just the way that it's shot, also Barry Jenkins, has a lens that's as distinct, maybe even more distinct than Spike Lee, where if you watch a Barry Jenkins movie, TV show, whatever, immediately, oh shit, this is Barry Jenkins. Yeah. And so I'm saying all that, and I still think the answer is Get Out.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But I think it's a conversation between Get Out and Moonlight.
Okay. Well, we are very much a Barry Jenkins appreciation society over here, so
Yeah.
you will get no pushback about Moonlight from us.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. The only thing that I will say about Moonlight in regards to this conversation, in regards to it being transformative, in regards to it becoming this communal experience, is that there is unfortunately for Moonlight, we talk about it all the time.
We talk about it all the time.
There is, unfortunately, there are people, let's say it, black men, who will not
Yeah.
see Moonlight, refuse to see Moonlight.
It's actually been a theme for us since it came out. Like we proselytize and you know, just in our personal lives. Like I know personally I've begged people, please see Moonlight, you know. So
No, I get that, and the
Right.
subject matter definitely is a barrier to entry for a lot of people.
So really the
That
answer should be it should be Moonlight. Like if we were all
It really should.
Right. Like if we were all better people,
Yes.
it would be Moonlight. Right. Oh my goodness, are you judging me because I haven't watched Moonlight? Let's be very clear. I am judging you if you haven't seen Moonlight.
it's not just it's why you haven't seen it, right?
Okay.
It's not
It's-
if
yeah.
someone hasn't seen it. Okay, whatever, fine. I mean, because it's a it's an indie film. It's not on a whole lot. I can see that, but if you are like making a conscious choice not to see it, then that's like okay, what's up? What's going on here?
Exactly.
What's wrong with you?
Exactly. Because it is available.
Right.
And last in the 20s, he has Sinners.
Sinners, okay.
Where are you, Damon Young, on Sinners?
I like Sinners a lot. I did not have like the life-changing experience watching it that so many people see. I thought it was a great movie. I didn't see it 5 times
Okay.
at the theater. I saw it once, and then it's actually on HBO Max now. And my wife and I were watching a little bit of it last night, actually. I think the most impressive thing about the movie is the ambition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ryan Coogler, put so much into this movie, and it's like it's like a full meal
Yes.
of a movie, right? But it and the only reason I say a but is because for me it wasn't something that I had to go out and rewatch immediately, like what happened with Get Out for me. Like when I saw Get Out the first time, I was like, I have to see this again, like immediately, right? I did not have that feeling with Sinners, and I know some people have, and everyone has different sensibilities, and I think it's a tremendous movie, but again, on my scale, on a 10-point scale, for me, it would probably get like an 8.5 or a 9. And I know some people will give it like a 10 plus or whatever, but for me, it would be like an 8.5 or a 9.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. That's why we have different opinions. Yeah. All right.
I mean, how did y'all feel? How did y'all feel?
I loved it. I do think I do think it was transformative for me because I was fortunate enough to see it cold on a big screen. Like I actually had the perfect experience with it. Where like quite honestly, my daughter said, let's go see it on a Humble the night it came out. Like I think I was at like a midnight show, just kind of going with my daughter. And we saw it on an IMAX screen. And I had no idea, I knew it was vampires in this. So it really was something for me. But I do acknowledge that I had the platonic ideal of how you're supposed to experience it.
Yeah, and I loved it as well. I thought it was fantastic filmmaking. The acting was great. The special effects, everything. I did too think that it was transformative. I loved its commentary on Black music, the history of it, and the blending of it with horror. The way that it did, I especially loved its depiction of Black love.
Yeah.
In that film, and it's done in a way that is not seen regularly on film anymore. So, for all of that, I thought it was just an outstanding moment in the theater.
So I'll say this because I want to be able to articulate one minor thing.
Okay.
That I had an issue with, and it's not even an issue. It's more of just a personal, like, I wish they hadn't done that. There's a lot of voiceover,
Mm-hmm.
um, and there's like flashback to things that we saw already on screen, and I just, for me, that kind of takes me out of the experience of watching a movie.
Okay, just generally.
I- yeah, in general, because I feel like a flashback to something that we just saw an hour ago is, I don't know. It's like, yeah, I'm watching the movie. I'm here. I remember this scene. We don't have to see it again.
Is there one particular
Before.
moment or one moment
Ah,
specifically you're thinking
okay.
about?
Okay, so before the big scene, before the big music scene with the
Right.
Mm-hmm.
different genres and all that, it begins with Delroy Lindo talking about, he's like, there's an off-screen voice of him talking about how music can conjure and do all this stuff. And it's just, I, we already heard him say that.
Mm-hmm.
Just, and again, Ryan Coogler's a genius. Everyone involved in making this movie I am so impressed. So whatever. But I mean, all right. So there's a list that came out. This is changing subjects, of like the 100 greatest players of all time, NBA players.
Okay.
I'm with
Bleacher
you. I'm
Report
there.
had this list, and people have been debating the top 10. Particularly the point that people have been really debating is Kobe being ranked 11th on this list of the 100 greatest NBA players. And my whole thing, and I think some of the people who are, who agree that Kobe's placement is where he's supposed to be, it's like once you get in the top 10, then you are picking, you are like splitting hairs in
Yes,
terms
absolutely.
of who people are, you know, and something like, oh, this guy only has one MVP, or everyone else in the top 10 has multiple, that matters.
Mm-hmm.
That matters when you're talking about top 10 all time, right? And so with this criticism feels like I'm splitting hairs
Sure.
in a way. But again, that's like the one minor thing that when I saw the movie and I watched it again, I was like, yes, that's it.
I
And
get
it's
it, man, because sometimes it can be just that thing that hits you personally
yeah.
Yes.
that just like, that's the ding that changes your score,
I'm laughing because Damon is about to draw us into the Great Micheaux Mission Trap. And we're going to start talking about a movie that's better than the movies that we're supposed to be talking about. Like Damon, I got to tell you, I was all revved up to talk about the structure, and it's a blues song and the role of repetition. And I said, you know what?
Yeah, no.
This is going to be another 45 minutes. You're going to have to come back to Philly. We'll have to get beer or something, and then we'll do all that.
Okay. I'm next time I'm in town, I'll hit y'all up.
All right.
I'm serious.
Yeah, hold you to it. Yeah.
But for now,
Because I know it's people like, didn't they just talk about Sinners? Yes, we just talked about Sinners.
we've done like 4 episodes on Sinners. It's now time for us to talk about the 2 films
Yes.
that we're supposed to be talking about tonight,
Yes.
missionaries. It is now time for us to talk about Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. After now, to be known as Don't Be a Menace.
Sure. Don't be a menace. Ellipses.
And 2002's Undercover Brother. I will give you the rundown on both, and then we will open up the floor. Okay? Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood is a 1996 American hood comedy directed by Paris Barkley in his featured directorial debut, written and starring Shawn Wayans and Marlon Wayans, along with contributions from the families Wayans and Keenen Ivory and Kim Wayans.
Sure.
The film is
It's also a nephew. Did you see they snuck a nephew in there?
well, I'm sure they did.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure, and I'm sure Mom did the craft services. Don't Be a Menace spoofs several 1990s hood films, notably Menace to Society, South Central, Juice, and Boys in the Hood, and features cameos by actors from all of those films, often parodying their original films. This is the second film of the Wayans to parody black film culture and African American society after I'm Gonna Get You Sucker by Keenan Ivory Wayans. 2002's Undercover Brother is a satirical spy action comedy blaxploitation film directed by Malcolm D. Lee, starring Eddie Griffin, with a screenplay by John Ridley. And it's based on the internet animated series that was also created by Ridley that it spoofs black exploitation films of the 70s, as well as a number of other films, most notably the James Bond franchise. This film also stars Chris Kattan, Denise Richards, Anjanae Ellis, Dave Chappelle, Chi McBride, and Neil Patrick Harris, and one Billy D. Williams.
Billy D. Williams.
In Undercover Brother, which, along with Don't Be a Menace, is up for review on our stop tonight on the Micheaux Mission, as we sit here with the editor and one of the authors in the new anthology series, That's How They Get You, an unruly anthology of Black American humor, Damon Young, here on the Micheaux Mission. Damon, let's start with your thoughts on Don't Be a Menace and Undercover Brother.
Okay, thoughts. So when doing some of the research for this, I assumed that Don't Be a Menace was directed by one of the Wayans. Did not realize that it was not. That actually was a surprise to me. Because it has the same feel of like scary movie. And I do not think that Don't Be a Menace is a good movie.
Okay.
Okay. I feel
Hot
like
take.
it's an entertaining movie, but it's like a collection of spoof centric scenes that are all combined into a movie. Like there's not an arc, right?
Right.
Not really.
None of the traditional structure of what makes a movie exists in this. It's just a collection of almost like skits, right? That just exists one after another. And it is funny because, this is the second, Wayne's brother, parody like this.
After I'm Gonna Get You Sucker.
First, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker for me, is a much superior movie. It's the performances are a bit better. It actually, the scenes, although they're also, all spoof, all parody, they still fit. There's still like there's an actual story. There's an actual thing happening. There's an actual climax, right? And with Don't Be a Menace, it's just jokes,
Right.
It's just nonstop jokes. And it's one of those movies where I actually mentioned it as an example. So I teach humor writing workshops. I've done it, I did it when I was teaching at Vona, which is like a retreat for writers of color. And also I had a residency at the University of Pittsburgh. And one of the things I did in my residency, I taught like a humor writing workshop. And one of the lessons was about the difference between satire and parody. And satire doesn't even have to be funny. Satire, is a commentary. Is a commentary on something, right? And sometimes it's told in a comedic way, sometimes it isn't. Whereas parody, everything is in service of a joke. Like every single line, every single scene, every single shot is in service of the next joke or a joke that's actually happening. And you can do that. Like I feel like Undercover Brother does that. And I think that again,
I'm Gonna Get You Sucker.
I'm Gonna Get You Sucker does it, right?
Yes,
But it also has an arc and a story and it's an actual movie. Whereas Don't Be a Menace, again, I put it in the same vein as Scary Movie, where it's just like, okay, this is entertaining,
Sure.
but this is just these are just skits that are just
Mm-hmm.
stitched together. And once you have like 15 of these skits, now you have enough for a movie.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. I
Exactly.
agree.
And I think it's interesting that you pointed out this being directed by Paris Barkley, because I don't know about for you, but this was my first time seeing the film. So I always went into it with the assumption well, first of all, it's a Wayans movie, so I know there's going to be other Wayans.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But I went into it assuming that this was going to be directed by one of the Wayans as well.
Right.
Probably Keenan.
Right. Especially this early on.
In their
You
career,
assume it'd be
right?
Keenan,
Because
right.
this was, not only was this their second big parody film, this was the film that really put Sean and Marlon
Exactly.
out there into the movies.
Yeah.
I'm Gonna Get You Sucker is Keenan's movie.
Right.
Keenan is this writer. He was already a star.
Right.
He was already an actor out there. He's already written things with Robert Townsend. He's developed a voice. He knows story structure, right? He knows that if I'm going to, what he's spoofing still has to be baked around a story, right? Which I think in especially in that time, he knows what he's spoofing, but he's taking his spoofing lessons from films like
Airplane.
Airplane.
Yeah, Airplane is really, you look
The
at,
Zucker brothers.
Right, you look at interviews with them, and they talk about how this is like their document that
Exactly.
they studied. Yeah.
Exactly. You cut to this film, Sean and Marlon, they take the wrong lessons from Airplane.
Okay.
Because you can look at Airplane and think it's just a series of skits, but there is an overarch arc to the film.
Sure.
Right? And that arc that story propels the movie from the beginning all the way to the end. The characters have an arc. Robert Hayes' character has an arc.
Right.
In Airplane.
Sure.
Sean Wayans does not have an arc in Don't Be a Menace.
Right.
Just because it starts with you think he has an arc, maybe he's going to have an arc because he pulls up to the hood and his mom's dropping him off for him to learn some lessons. But then he just basically becomes Sean Wayans walking through the hood.
Right.
And it like Damon says, it just becomes a series of skits with just trying to be funny. And in the other problem that it doesn't take from I'm Gonna Get You Sucker is that they're not strong actors in this movie.
No, they're not. No.
Yeah. I
No,
thought you
I'm
said-
not. Yeah, I'm
I
not
thought you said-
hesitating. Yeah,
I thought you would disagree. Like, yeah, they're not.
I mean, I'm pausing because I didn't even really think of them as actors.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
so
that's
go
the
ahead.
other problem.
Yeah.
That's the other problem. They're not actors. There's a couple of comedians, and there's a couple of, okay. To say that they're not actors maybe is doing a disservice because these people
They're not acting.
They're
That's
not
the thing.
acting.
They're actors, but they're not acting.
Okay, there
they're
you
not
go.
acting.
Right. They're
And,
not
and,
actually
and, and in their defense, they're not giving anything to act with.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the script is totally, non-existent. But also this is early in Sean and Marlon Wayans' career as well. Marlon, who we have said that in different projects, we enjoy him as an actor.
Look.
We enjoy him as an actor. Sean, Sean's a good-looking man, and I think that is the only thing of real, true note and positivity that I can offer about Sean Wayans is that he is a good-looking man. I don't think he's funny. I don't think perhaps there is talent there. I have yet to see it in any production that I've seen, and is certainly not present here in his. I don't know if this is his feature film debut, but this is his big shot at the film.
Showcase.
This is the showcase, and it
Look,
just lets it down.
I don't disagree with either of you. I don't think it's a good movie. I never thought it was a good movie, but I will accentuate the positive. much like Airplane, I enjoyed the cameos of actors
From the other
playing
film.
versions of themselves. Like I think
Okay.
it's Sam Moore who plays the one
Yeah.
kid, and he cracks me up every time I see him in something. I think much like I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, which I do think is a superior film, but it is also a film that I think has ups and downs.
Fair.
I think the thing about this film is that the jokes come so fast that just by pure volume, you're going to find something that makes you laugh. Chris Spencer's My Milk of Magnesia and has cracked me up since the first time I saw it. You know, I love the kid in the wheelchair in the hammer. Look, I think it's silly. And I don't think silly is necessarily bad. I think one thing about a lot of the Wayans projects is that they are unapologetically silly. Mm-hmm. Like, this is going to be silly. And if you want to come at it silly, then fine. Much like you, I think Sean has never seemed that comfortable in front of the camera to me as Damon or Marlon. In my mind, Sean has always been more of the speed of Keenan. Like, I never thought Keenan seemed that comfortable in front of the camera, which is why I think he spent the majority of his career directing.
Okay.
But I do think because they are grouped together, Sean and Marlon are a duo.
Mm-hmm.
I started noticing Marlon in this movie. Like his energy, his sort of commitment to the bits. I think his physical performance is raw in this. You know, again, he's very young, but I remember seeing it the first time going, I think I like that kid.
Okay.
And then as we've talked about, as the years went on, Marlon, you know, in my mind, I always think Marlon is the most talented overall of them all. But I kind of see it from here. But, you know, it's kind of fascinating how the Wayans brothers, Sean and Marlon Wayans, they have like this kind of, these two sets of films where they have the spoof films.
Yeah.
And then they have, like Damon, next week we're going to talk about Little Man. And, you know, they have like the high concept films.
Okay.
And, you know, they're not what I would call great films, but I also think you kind of meet them where they are. They serve their purpose. I don't know how much I'm defending them against you two, but, you know, it was an hour and a half. It went off, and I said, well, there you go.
I appreciate what you're saying too, and also that distinction between, you know, Damon and Marlon being better on camera, and Sean and Keenan not being as comfortable. I think also, you know, your point about Sean, you know, in terms of him being like very traditionally handsome, you know, very muscular. Same with Keenan.
We talked about that. Keenan fell into
that might be a part of it too, where they're built and they look more like action stars, more like leading men.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're trying to be as zany and as flexible and as quick and whatever as their brothers, who are smaller physically, stature wise, and also just maybe just have more of that natural, like, I don't know, fluidity.
Yeah.
You know, that you need to do this sort of slapstick and also the other types of comedy that they're doing. And again, I think, you know, if we're keeping with the mains, I think Marlon, you know, with like Logo Dirty Shame, that could have been his lane if he kept on that. Like doing like the action comedy where he's like the straight man,
right,
and everything else around him is ridiculous. And maybe Sean could have had like a similar sort of lane where everyone else is funny.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not funny, right? But again, I mean, we're talking about, you know, a family that has been extremely successful,
Very.
right,
and making people laugh for the last 40 years, right? And you know, I will also say that the Bernie Mac scene is one of the funniest scenes in in movie history.
Yeah.
Right. That is, I mean, it it is so absurd.
Yes.
And Bernie Mac does such a great job articulating this very particular type of self-hating black cop that always exists in these types of movies.
Right.
And like when I think of this movie, I think of that scene as like it, and that scene also, I think one of the reasons why that scene has kind of stood the test of time too is that it provides like this meta commentary. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's a critique, it's a parody of this scene, which is in every, seems like is in every hood movie, particularly Boys in the Hood, but it's also like, a dig, a shot at black cops. And
Right.
also just again, we're getting into that question of what does it mean to perform race? This is it.
Yeah.
This is, an example of of a parody of the performance of race. Like there's
Okay.
a thing that's how to get you that is related to how I there's an invented email. I have a section where I have like these pretend emails that white people send black people, whatever. And in one of the emails, one of the person who's writing the email just talks about how much they hate themselves, how much they hate white people, and they just start going in like I hate Nicole Kidman, I hate I hate white pith when you peel an orange, I hate bananas, I hate piano keys, I hate Norway, iPhones, whatever. And that's a riff off of Bernie Mac,
Right. Right.
in that scene. So there are good things in Don't Be a Menace, right? But again, it's a collection of skits that that are just patched together to make a movie, right?
Yeah.
And it's not something that I don't know. There when people think of it, like I don't even know what happens. I bet you if you were to ask like the people who have seen this movie, not recently, but
Right.
have seen this movie before, you ask them what happens,
Right. What is the actual plot of
Yeah.
the film?
what
Yeah.
actually happens in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you fold in Undercover Brother into this conversation?
So I think Undercover Brother is the most underrated black movie of the 21st century.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think that it's considered up there with like the great comedies or the great black movies.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think that you have a movie with this absurd plot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a parody of spy movies, of James Bond, of black exploitation, right? And it manages to pull them all off, right, in a way that felt like, oh, this is working. And I
Mm.
think one of the things that, I forgot which one of you made this point about the acting
Mm-hmm.
and Don't Be a Menace, where no one's acting in this movie. People are acting and I'm gonna get you sucker. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
acting,
Mm-hmm.
right? If people are acting, Anjanae Ellis is acting,
Yes, she is.
right? Kay McBride is acting. Eddie Griffin is acting.
Yes.
He's not just being absurd, not just being ridiculous. Dave Chappelle is acting in this movie, right? And it's just a movie that I feel needs to get more love and seems to get forgotten about when these conversations happen about like great black movies.
As I was watching this another movie.
You had
My
never
fir-
seen it before.
Never seen it before.
Yeah.
First time seeing this film.
It's easy to fall through the cracks. To
For-
Damon's point. Yeah.
To Damon's point, for exactly that reason. It's
Yeah.
not a movie that people like cape up for. It's not a movie that there was a sequel starring the star.
Right.
We'll put a pin in that. It's not a movie that, for one reason or another, Eddie Griffith returned to. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I turned it on, and I actually turned it on with expecting it to be good, expecting it to kind of like, I bet this is a movie that like people sleep on.
I mean, John Ridley wrote the script.
John Ridley,
and
Malcolm D. Lee
directed it.
So I'm like,
you're like,
oh,
pedigree. Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah,
what I
absolutely.
said. When I saw
Yeah.
that Malcolm D. Lee and John Ridley, I said, this has to be something,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And as I sat there watching this film, two things came to my mind.
Okay.
One, this movie is fucking amazing.
Okay. All right.
It is fucking hilarious.
Okay.
I loved this movie. And the other thing that came to my mind, I got that it's a spoof of blaxploitation and it spoofs it hard. I got that it was a spoof of James Bond. It spoofs it hard. But it has fun with doing it. Everyone is having a ball in this film. And the other film that this is probably going to get compared to, because it's coming 4 years after it, is Austin Powers.
Oh, 100%.
This is better than Austin Powers. This is funnier than Austin Powers. This is, mind you, this is my first time seeing it. I look forward to watching this film again in another couple of years because I'm almost certain I'm going to laugh just as hard as I did today watching this film.
I don't think it's better than Austin Powers. So I'll start there. And I think that says something about how good I think Austin Powers is, frankly.
Okay.
I think this script is amazingly smart. I love Lee's direction in it. I have to say that part of the reason that I am part of the demographic that Damon's talking about, that doesn't talk about this movie so much, it is just a personal taste thing. Eddie Griffith is like nails on a chalkboard with me.
I totally get that.
And this film ultimately is so good that I like it in spite of him.
Really?
But because I like it in spite of him, it always has this kind of drag.
That drag,
behind it. Like, this is maybe my third time watching it from beginning to end. And every time I watch it, I am always surprised by how much I like it. Because I really do. And the funny thing, my end note that I had after watching these two movies together, frankly, is I said, wow, I really wish Marlon would have played Undercover Brother.
Oh my God, no. No.
I think Marlon Wayans would have done a good job.
Okay, maybe he would have done a good job. I think Eddie Griffith is hilarious in this movie.
Okay.
I think
Look.
because what I like about this film is that in its sending up of blaxploitation in the James Bond films is that Undercover Brother is not the smartest guy in the room.
Yes.
He's not an idiot, he's not a buffoon, he's not Blank Man, you know, he's not Meteor Man, you know, but he's cool enough, he's confident enough in who he is,
dude. Yet
he still makes some mistakes.
Dude, you over there trying to sell me on coconut. I don't like coconut. like y'all, you can sit and you can expound on the wonderful aspects and the wonderful. I don't like coconut.
That's funny.
And Eddie Griffin, it's his voice. It is, and you know, obviously, I don't know the brother. Like, this ain't personal. This is just about, you know, his acting. It does. So I can't argue with either of y'all about whether or not I think this film is as good as y'all think it is. But and I tried to find it. I swear there was a moment when the film was out that I feel like Malcolm D. Lee went on a bit of a publicity run and basically tried to assuage people's fears about Eddie Griffin, where he basically said, I know Eddie Griffith is in it. I know you think he does this type of comedy, but it's not that kind of comedy. And I spent 45 minutes trying to track down him when he did it. But I swear I remember this moment when the film was out.
I don't remember anything like that.
I could be making it up. I could have been hallucinating. I was drunk. I don't know.
I mean, it could. I mean, that sounds like it could be true, right? It sounds like it could be true.
That he could be drunk? Yes, that is true.
That part also.
Right.
And I'm not the biggest Eddie Griffin fan, right? I think he works in this movie. But even as you were saying that, I was thinking of, okay, well, if we were to replace Eddie Griffin with someone else, I can't see Shawn Wayans or Marlon Wayans. Marlon Wayans, I can't see Marlon Wayans, but if you were to replace him, who would it be? And who's like age appropriate? Because I think he needs to be a little older. He needs to be like in that like mid 30, like early 30, mid 30 range. So he can't be young. He can't be too old to do this. He has to be someone who's kind of lived a life, but still has space in his life to, for this new thing that he's doing. So
And he has to be someone who can become Undercover Brother.
Yes.
Because at that time, you could maybe make the argument that, and maybe he's a little older, but in my mind, you could maybe make the argument to pull someone like Martin Lawrence into that.
Yeah.
But Martin Lawrence brings Martin Lawrence in every role.
Look, I'm going to keep with the theme. I think Tommy Davidson could have pulled it off. I think pre-Oscar Jamie Foxx could have pulled it off before he became an actor.
Jamie Foxx, I like.
I think Jamie Foxx. I think another thing that we might be missing or discounting. I don't know how big Eddie Griffin is, right? But he feels like someone who could handle himself and be like the fighting scenes or whatever. It didn't take that much of a disbelief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think with Tommy Davidson, I'd be like, nah.
He's
And
just
I think
too
with
smart.
Martin,
Yeah.
even when I watch like Bad Boys, I'm like, come on now.
Yeah, I think Chris Kattan beats Tommy Davidson's ass.
Yeah.
And so I think Jamie Foxx is perfect. I think Jamie Foxx is someone who has all of that, could be zany, could be silly, but also is like, oh shit, I'm Undercover Brother now. I have to. This is a silly satirical movie, but this is kind of serious. I'm acting right now.
And you talked about, Damon, about how silly, ridiculous the plot is, and sure, it's ridiculous, but it was also the plot of They Clone Tyrone.
I wrote the same thing.
It's also the plot of They Clone Tyrone.
Like they're sitting there talking about the chicken, and I said, "Is this They Clone Tyrone?"
So I can't call the plot, but so ridiculous.
Although in both of their defense, and we talked about this with They Clone Tyrone, I think this has been part of Black folklore.
True.
And Black conspiracy theory that they trying to get us through the fried chicken. So, I think both texts kind of pull from this.
And they had a good commercial.
Look.
I kind of like the commercial.
Look. He had sides. He had desserts.
He had the 8-piece nappy meal.
He had the, look. It totally seemed like something that you would get and then be mad. Damon, can I tell you, in just full transparency, I actually got in a line for the Popeyes fried chicken sandwich at the height of it, and then got out of the line because I was ashamed of myself.
Can I? Okay, thank you for sharing that with me.
Yes.
Can I tell you all something about the Popeyes fried chicken sandwich? I take credit. I take partial credit for blowing up like it did. I do.
When we looked at your resume and looked at your accomplishments, I didn't notice that on there.
Okay, so this is what happened.
Do it correctly. What had happened was,
all right. So Business Insider or some other website like that, had an article talking about how the new Popeyes chicken sandwich was actually really good, right?
Okay.
And so I read this, and I'm like, you know what? There's a Popeyes close to me. Let me go fuck with the sandwich, and let me see for myself.
I live next door to Popeyes.
Yeah. So I went and Popeyes got the sandwich. this is a good fried chicken sandwich. The fried chicken sandwiches are hard because you got to get the ratio with the bread and the
Sure.
breading.
Sure.
Right. It's hard. It's hard to make a good fried chicken sandwich. And so I wrote about it on VSB. Right. Now, again, I'm not taking full credit, but the piece I wrote on VSB was well read. And then other people started writing pieces about this fried chicken sandwich. And then it snowballed and went viral. So again, I'm not taking full credit,
Right.
but like
You were part of
in
it.
that avalanche of virility, right? I contributed some pretty significantly sized snow boulders to that.
So you were the snowdrop that started.
Boom.
I
There we
see what
go.
you did there. I see what you did there. That's right. Always on message.
Go. Like there's two things as a blogging person that I will take somewhat credit for. It's that, and then it's also people referencing, talking about how when you mix together macaroni and cheese with a wooden mixing spoon, it sounds like sex. I was the first person in recorded history to say that. I might not have been the first person to say it out loud. I might not have been the first person to make that recognition, but I was the first person to write that down and publish it.
There you go.
And now it's like songs and shit.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, Black History. Y'all didn't know y'all was gonna get a Black History lesson. Get me on this show.
Look, we try and yeah.
Well, we take our history when we can
That's
get it.
right.
So we
And
appreciate
again,
that.
if you or anyone out there, if you've never heard the second thing before, the next time you make some macaroni and cheese, or you're mixing some sort of, maybe some pasta or something like that, something with noodles and some sauce, mix it around, and you're like, holy shit, it sounds like sex. Right?
And hopefully you don't do it the other way around. And you're sitting somewhere going, this sounds like macaroni and cheese being made. Because that's not sexy.
I'm not going to kink shame, if that's what you're into. You might have listeners that are into different things, and I'm not going to kink shame anyone. We're past that.
Okay. All right. Getting this train back on the rails.
Back on the train, back on the rails.
Before we turn to whether our recommendations for the film.
Right. I did want to say, because I spent so much time sort of shitting on Eddie Griffin, I loved every performance in this film.
Everyone.
Like every, and speaking of somebody who a little bit goes a long way.
Dave Chappelle.
Oh no, I love Dave Chappelle in this,
Oh.
and I've liked Dave Chappelle in movies. I thought Chris Kattan,
Let me tell you.
like Chris Kattan worked, and again, I don't like a little Chris Kattan goes a long way with me usually.
When Chris Kattan started dancing to Mary J. Blige, I was like, all right, Chris, I see you, man. I see what you're doing here.
The funny thing is, I read an interview with Malcolm D. Lee, and they asked him, how many takes did you have to do with Billy D. Williams? Like did he break when Chris Kattan was dancing? And Malcolm D. Lee, and I love black people because it's Billy D. Williams, and you guys speak respectfully about Billy D. Williams, and he was like very serious. He's like, no, he didn't break because basically he's a professional. So he sat there and it was like just this absurd exchange where this reporter, who I presume was white, is like, but Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian, was he laughing when Chris Kattan was dancing? Malcolm D. Lee's like, no, he wasn't. He wasn't laughing at all. We only had to film it once because he's a professional.
Yeah.
But
I did like Chris Kattan. I liked everyone.
sure,
I like Chi McBride, Anjanae Ellis. We talked about. I mean,
Anjanae Ellis. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a shame that it took her so long to kind of become a thing.
yeah.
Because I felt like she could have, after this, because that was my first time seeing her, hearing of her when I saw this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And she could have she could have been in action comedies, romantic comedies. Like she could have had that lane,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
racism.
it actually dawned on me when Denise Richards shows up in the movie that, oh, Denise Richards is actually more prominent on a lot of the posters
Oh
than
yeah. Oh
Anjanae
yeah.
Ellis.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
and now
Absolutely.
admittedly, Denise Richards is a name.
Right. She
at
was
that
a bigger
moment.
star at the moment.
But still, I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, I mean, it still is decidedly a black film. Anjanae Ellis is decidedly the female lead in this movie.
Yes, she is.
So I was like, ugh. But yeah, Anjanae Ellis is great in this. Neil Patrick Harris, funny in this. Eddie Griffith is amazing in this movie.
Like, look.
I mean, he was getting like, yo, man. I mean, hey, he made Jim Kelly seem cool.
Look, I defer to the compliments. This is a me thing. This is a me thing. This is not an objective thing at all. I understand that.
This is your me thing
Right.
with this film.
Right.
All right.
We're
With
allowed
that,
to have me. No, I'm just saying we're allowed to have me things.
That's right.
yeah, we are.
See?
I had my me thing about Sinners. The flashbacks.
There you go.
Yeah, that was my me thing. I don't like flashbacks.
There you go.
I'm loaded with me things.
You're that's what they say about you actually.
Was Denise Richards the most famous person in this movie when the movie was released?
It's a good question.
She probably was.
She probably is.
She
probably
no,
was.
let's put it this way. Yeah, she probably was. Like Eddie Griffith probably had a little.
Because Neil Patrick Harris hadn't really started
He
his
hadn't
second
popped
act yet.
He hadn't popped yet.
Yeah.
He hadn't
Yeah,
popped.
This is
yet.
actually when I realized he was funny.
Yeah.
See, but Denise Richards was probably the most famous person. Now, like black people knew Denise Richards. I don't think like she like really resonated with us.
Oh,
but,
I
like
think Damon meant like just famous.
but as
generally.
famous in general, yeah, she
certainly.
probably is the most famous person
Yeah.
in this movie. So that's interesting.
Which that's weird.
Well, she's a Bond girl.
Like when
also.
you think, was she a Bond girl?
Yeah.
What she was?
Yeah, I'm
know
pretty sure
that.
she was in one of the. I'll verify it now. since
Right. I
we're
thought
both
she was
looking
in
at-
like the sexy, almost
incredulously.
Cinemax movies. And then, of course,
Yeah,
she was
wow.
in Starship
Wow.
Troopers.
Everyone-
Yeah, she was.
everyone-
She was in The World Is Not Enough. Yeah, as a matter of fact, she is one of the most critiqued Bond girls because she was in The World Is Not Enough. Her character was Christmas Jones.
Was that supposed to be a black character?
No,
It's a pretty black ass name.
no,
She dropped out.
no. However, Dr. Christmas Jones in The World Is Not Enough, which was a Pierce Brosnan James Bond,
Which is why I didn't see it.
was
Yeah.
an American nuclear physicist.
Okay, stop. You could have just stopped at American, right? We were after American. It's like, come on, it's got more ridiculous.
So, yeah,
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
there you have it. There you have it. We're getting late on time. Let's go. Let's start with "Don't Be a Menace." Mm-hmm. Damon, with all that we have said of this film, we do recognize that this is a film that a lot of people enjoy. A lot of people return to. It is a film that is oft quoted, especially for its time. Would you, Damon Young, recommend that people see Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood?
Yes, I would. Not because it's a good movie. It has good parts, it has good elements, but it's also it's one of those movies where it's not a great movie, but it is an essential black movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
What makes
it's
it
the
an
only
essential
movie-
black movie?
It's the only movie that satirizes that late '90s, early that late '80s, early '90s period of all the hood movies. It introduces the Wayans brothers, the younger Wayans brothers, to the zeitgeist. Was that Bernie Mac's first time in a movie?
If it wasn't, it's one of them.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
yeah,
it's very early.
very early. Yeah.
And so you also have these actors, these comedians who are introduced first time on screen. You have some iconic lines. You know, this that milk of magnesia is something that again it still works today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you have these elements, right? And again, just don't go in expecting a movie. Don't go in expecting an arc. Don't go in expecting knowing what actually happens because it's one of those movies where if you just change the sequence of every scene, it doesn't change the movie one bit
Hmm.
whatsoever.
Right.
Like that Bernie Mac scene, that could have been a second scene in the movie, and it changes nothing. Changes absolutely nothing, right? And so don't go in expecting a movie, but go in expecting to be sporadically, intermittently entertained.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Just to answer your question, this wasn't his first time on film because he was in Friday, which predates this. That was 1995.
Okay.
Vincent, what say you of Don't Be a Menace?
I would also recommend it for the same reasons, and also again, I do think Marlon Wayans is one of the more fascinating actors of the past couple of decades.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in Marlon's journey, it kind of starts here.
Mm-hmm.
And I do argue that even then you could see the spark of what I think makes him him. I think there are funny moments. I think there are enough funny moments in here that again I think I kind of group it with Scary Movie and I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, where I don't like a lot of the jokes. Like the jokes don't hit, but they come so fast that if you just sit there for 45 seconds, it's going to be a joke that makes you laugh, and that'll hold you to the next one. So I would recommend it.
Okay. Well, I would not recommend Don't Be a Menace.
Okay.
I think you are actually better served. I think the scene with Bernie Mac is an iconic moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is almost like a short film, a short piece, a little masterpiece inside this, pseudo Saturday Night Live, sketch fest that we have here. That's available on YouTube.
Sure.
That you can watch, fully get the context of it, fully get the humor of it, and honestly, the humor of it is there, but it's also a commentary on the greatness of Bernie Mac as a performer in that scene. I think you can watch that. Everything else about this film, I think you can leave it alone. And to Damon's point about it being like the one film that parodies that like these types of films. Friday is not a parody film, but I think that Friday is a humanization of those types of films in a way that I think it while it doesn't play as a parody, it has a bit of a, and you two English professors will tell me if I'm using the word wrong, satirical look at those films that I think it does offer a commentary on those films, that genre of films that Don't Be a Menace says it does, but I don't think actually really does. So I think Friday lives in the lane of that Don't Be a Menace tries to, and therefore you don't have to go to Don't Be a Menace. If you watch Don't Be a Menace when you were young and you've got the member berries of loving this film, God bless you. Live on those. You don't need to return to it.
All right.
Don't return to it as a grown up. There's only one out. There's only one movie, one black comedy that I would not recommend that I just think has no redeeming value whatsoever, and that's Soul Plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Soul Plane. It's just a movie about sex joke. Like every joke in a movie, where 90% of the jokes are about sex and about black dicks and about white women being available sexual, like the entire movie. It's just sex joke, sex joke, sex joke, sex joke, sex joke. And they're not good ones
No.
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. Soul
Yeah.
Plane is a deeply
So,
offensive film.
Yeah, it's actually, if it's actually
Yeah.
like, and I don't have pearls. I'm not clutching the
No,
pearls I
no,
don't
no.
have. But yeah, Soul Plane is like an offensive movie, offensively bad. Right.
It is.
So
It is. I also invite you to watch Rappin', but that's my bridge.
okay.
But let's go to Undercover Brother.
Yeah.
Where stand you with Undercover? I will start. See Undercover Brother. If you haven't seen it in a while, return to Undercover Brother.
Yeah.
If it is possibly, yes, to Vincent's point, maybe the best thing that Eddie Griffith has done solo. He's been a part of some things. But I just think that the ensemble cast, him definitively as the lead, I think the story, I think it's funny. I think it knows what it wants to do. I think it's smart. I think that it's absolutely, there are moments in this film that I just died laughing, rewound the film, and I don't do that often. I think it is just so smart, so humorous. I think it is up there as far as these parodies films. It is up there with Black Dynamite for me.
Okay.
It is that good. I enjoyed Undercover Brother a lot. Vincent.
I did not enjoy it as much as you two, but I did enjoy it, and I would recommend it. I think the performance, I think the script is really smart. I love Malcolm D. Lee's direction. Like, I think there's a kineticism to his direction that he doesn't necessarily have the opportunity to show in a lot of his films. Like, his films tend to be a little more talky.
Yeah.
And you get to see a side of his direction that you don't often see. Again, I think the cast from top to bottom, including Eddie Griffin, is doing good work. You know, again, I have a personal taste thing, but outside of that, I 100% agree with you. Yeah, I would absolutely recommend it.
And Damon?
Yeah. You get no recommendation with no qualifiers from me. Go and see it if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it in a while, go watch it again. Also, I want to give some props to Malcolm Lee also too, because I think that he creates movies. He has a very significant range in terms of the movies that he creates, right? And I don't know if he, along with Undercover Brother being underrated, I think Malcolm Lee might be somewhat underrated as a director too. I mean,
That's fair.
because
I 100% agree with you.
Creator of The Best Man, and also Girls Trip.
Yeah.
And Girls Trip is a movie that was a smash hit, right?
Yep.
I mean, has there been another like ensemble black female driven gross out comedy
No.
like that?
No, there
has that
hasn't.
ever existed?
Nope.
Right? And so I think that Malcolm does a really good job of just you could tell when someone loves black people
Exactly.
by how they pick black people on screen, the choices that they make. And even if you don't agree with every choice, you could be like, okay, this person loves black people, and you could tell Malcolm Lee has a deep love for us with the movies that he creates.
Yes, he does. Well, there you have it, missionaries.
There you have it.
That is our review of Don't Be a Menace and Undercover Brother. But you be the judge. Go check out the films. At the end of the day, two directors, actors, crews, they got together to make two movies and put them out there for you. Okay?
Yep.
Damon Young, the author of his book, is out there right now. He's got, I mean, I don't know why he wastes his time with us. That's how they get you.
That's how they get you.
Unruly anthology of Black American humor. Out in bookstores now.
If I had to send you a nickel for every time I say that's how they get you, I'd owe you a lot of nickels.
You owe me a lot of nickels, probably like 17 nickels. Huh?
I say it all the time. That's how they get you.
He's going to email you his address.
Right. I'll just send some nickels.
I'm going to hold you to the 85 cent.
He will. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for taking the time to sit and visit with us, man. We really appreciate it, man.
This has been a lot of fun. Really appreciate you guys. I think y'all do a great thing with the film reviews and the commentary, and also just inserting all of the critique and the humor. And this was a lot of fun. So thank you for allowing me to be in your space.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, you have the option. We have one more bit of business that we have to do. We have to play our game, the game of kings, 6 degrees of D'Urville Martin. If we don't, the missionaries will revolt. So we can't do that. You are more than welcome to stay as a lifeline for Vincent, as I am going to give him 2 actors, and he has 6 films or less to connect them to D'Urville Martin, that star of many blaxploitation films of the 70s. Are you ready to be his lifeline, or do you need to go?
I can't. I cannot function as this. I would be useless as your lifeline. I'm just letting you know right now. I could be on as a witness, but I can't be any assistance.
Okay. Moral support.
He's there for moral support. All right. We're going to go to 6 degrees of D'Urville Martin. All right, Vincent, this will be easy for you tonight.
Okay.
In 6 films or less, keeping it in theme, we got 2 actors from the films that we have watched tonight.
Okay.
All right, so we're making it very easy for you.
Okay, good.
In 6 films or less, connect D'Urville Martin to from Don't Be a Menace.
Okay.
Chris Spencer.
Oh, Chris Spencer. We were just talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's do Chris Spencer real fast. D'Urville Martin is in 5 on the Black Hand Side with Leonard Jackson. Mm-hmm. Leonard Jackson is in Boomerang with John Witherspoon.
Yes.
We're going to keep it Wayans. John Witherspoon is in Harlem Shuffle with Keenan. Hollywood Shuffle with Keenan Ivory Wayans, who is in Low Down Dirty Shame with Chris Spencer.
Oh.
Okay.
I forgot that he was in Low Down Dirty Shame. Yeah. Very good, Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And now, keeping it in theme from the wildly underappreciated Undercover Brother.
Mm-hmm.
In 6 films or less, connect D'Urville Martin to Chris Kattan.
Oh, Chris Kattan. Yeah, he's interesting because he was in that Saturday Night Live cohort of the 90s.
He was.
See if I can use Billy D. Williams. Was he in The Ladies' Man?
Chris Kattan was...
If he's not, I can just...
Was not in The Ladies' Man.
Okay, then good. All right, that's fine. Because D'Urville Martin is in the final come down with Billy D. Williams. Billy D. Williams is in The Ladies' Man with Will Ferrell.
Okay.
And Will Ferrell is in Night at the Roxbury.
With
Chris Kattan.
Very good, Vincent. Look at you.
Look.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, well, it's something.
I feel like I might be able to do the same with like obscure NBA players. I could probably do that. But with movies, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, you got Dr. J and the Fish that Saved Pittsburgh. You've got Ray. What's his name?
I was waiting for you, the non-sports guy, to start thinking that you could.
No, we just talked about him, and he got game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know his name.
Ray Allen.
You've got all of the players in both of the Space Jams.
Okay, all right. I thought you were going to go to Bow Wow's movie.
Who all is in Like Mike?
Is Spud in Like Mike? Now I forget who's up.
You probably can. You probably can do the basketball players.
I didn't mean in movies. I just meant
I know that you did.
yeah.
Vincent doesn't. He doesn't really follow the sports ball.
Right.
So I knew you didn't need movies.
Right. But I was going to stick with the movies.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I pull for whoever you guys are pulling for. Like, yay our team, boo their team.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
Damon,
all right.
thank you so much. We're going to let you get out of here, man.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for taking the time with us, brother.
All right, of course. I'll holler at y'all next time in Minute City.
Please do.
Please do, brother.
Or you come to the Berg, holler at me.
All right.
We'll make it so.
All right.
All right. Good night,
Take
brother.
care, man. Be safe. All right. That has been Damon Young. Before we tell you what we're going to be reviewing next week here on the Micheaux Mission, I invite you to send all of your thoughts. Email us at micheauxmission@gmail.com. That's MICHEAUXMISSION@gmail.com. You can always find the Micheaux Mission on the social media of your choice, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, at Micheaux Mission. The Micheaux Mission is available as a podcast wherever podcasts are available. That means Apple. That means Spotify. That also means YouTube, where you're watching us right now, hopefully on Tuesday nights, where you can subscribe, hit the bell, and be notified of when we go live. You can subscribe where we find a podcast, and the podcast will be available in your feed. The Micheaux Mission streams live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. from Young Chunk, Philadelphia's premier video podcast palace. If you want to book yourself in one of the many studios that they have here at Young Chunk, they are actually building more studios as we speak. They are behind soundproof walls right now. The head of Young Chunk, Terry, he has this fascination with tearing down walls. He is tearing down more walls in the back, making more room, because now Damon has inspired him. It's like, hey, why can't we just do a whole Philadelphia Eagles podcast here at Young Chunk? It happens in real time here. Book yourself in one of these great studios. Hit them up at youngchunk.com. The Micheaux Mission is also a proud member of The Podglomerate, thepodglomerate.com. They make podcasts work, like ours, which will be returning next week here to review, as Vincent let you know, Lil Man. Starring Marlon and Sean Wayans. Mm-hmm. Right here on the Micheaux Mission. Until then, he's Vincent, I'm Len, and in parting we say,
we'll see you when it's time to meet again.